What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. The grandson of former President Jimmy Carter stated in an interview recently that while his famous grandfather is doing okay, his days, he believes, are numbered, that his life is coming to an end. It was back in February of 2023 when it was announced by the Carter Center that the former president was entering hospice care. It was believed at that time that Jimmy Carter was only days away from death. But miraculously, Jimmy Carter is still with us, some 1 year and 2 months later. But the grandson of the former president, of the 39th president, is indicating that his life may be coming to an end shortly. Jimmy Carter has been pretty much around, it seems like forever. Only in the last few years has he really truly slowed down. Um, I would say since 2019, he's really slowed down. You can clearly see that he's physically deteriorating. Um, I don't know exactly what's going on with him, but I've read some reports that he's suffering from cancer. But you know, at that age, oftentimes cancer moves very slowly because of, as you get older, your cells replicate much slower. Everything slows down. So um, I've read it's a recurrence of the melanoma that metastasized to his brain and other areas back in 2015. The immunotherapy that he underwent, which was experimental at that time, seemingly cured him of his cancer. But I think it came back, was come back. Uh, Look, Jimmy Carter is seen by most as the most successful ex-president that we've had in history. He has had the longest ex-presidency of all time by far, far breaking the record previously held by Herbert Hoover, who was an ex-president for some 33 years. Uh, Carter's been an ex-president now for 43 years. Uh, Jimmy Carter was a state senator from Georgia for a number of years in the early to mid 1960s. Ran for the governorship of Georgia back in 1966, lost in the primaries. Ran again for the governorship in 1970. That time was elected. Was one of the first new Southern governors, not utilizing the system of oppression and Jim Crow, uh, but was a progressive governor. Was not very well known when he announced his run for the presidency back in late 1974, but ultimately he won the nomination for president, winning most of the primaries. He was not popular within the Democratic Party, especially the liberal wing of the party. Matter of fact, there was a push to try to get him to deny the nomination for Jimmy Carter back in 1976. It was called the ABC movement, or anything but Carter, but it did not work. To appease the liberal wing of the party, Jimmy Carter nominated Walter Mondale as his vice president, a liberal senator from Minnesota. In the general election, he defeated incumbent President Gerald Ford, although the election was much closer than it was supposed to have been. A lot of it had to do with the fact that Jimmy Carter he did not run a great campaign. Um, his campaign sort of faltered down the stretch. He ran a great primary campaign, but the general election campaign was flawed. But Jimmy Carter's presidency was considered a failure. He had his moments. There was, of course, the Camp Davis Accords. That was a very big success, an agreement uh, between Israel and Palestine. No, excuse me, Israel and Egypt. Excuse me, uh, At the time, their leaders were Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin. But what did Jimmy Carter in was a combination of a terrible economy and the Iranian hostage crisis, which reigned on for some 444 days from, I think, November of 1979 until election day, not election, excuse me, inauguration day, 1981. It's now has been revealed that the Reagan campaign for Reagan people negotiated with the Iranians to extend the hostage situation until Reagan was elected to make Jimmy Carter look bad and to make Ronald Reagan look good. That's why there's been this change in the perception of Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter. Back in the 80s and 90s, Ronald Reagan was probably the most popular president since Eisenhower. Jimmy Carter was anathema to politics. Now, Jimmy Carter's become more beloved, and Ronald Reagan is being seen as, especially his policies, have been seen as some of the things, some of the big factors, key factors as to why the middle class has shrunk. Deregulation has gotten out of control. Political corruption has gotten out of control. And he was just seen now as a doddering buffoon, reading speeches, saying, saying things that felt good, but his administration caused a lot of problems. Homelessness, I think, more than doubled during his administration. The AIDS crisis got out of hand. A lot of different things. The gap between the rich and the poor grew. The prison population skyrocketed under Reagan's administration. But, it is what it is, man. So I hope they're wrong. I hope we get a little bit more of Jimmy Carter, because if he was to make it to October the 1st, the longest lived president would be the first president to make it to 100. But Jimmy Carter is one of only a handful of presidents to live to the age of 90 and beyond. The others are John Adams, who lived to age 90, Herbert Hoover, who lived to age 90, Ronald Reagan lived to age 93, Gerald Ford lived to age 93, and George H.W. Bush lived to age 94, and Carter, who is currently 99. Anyway, tell me what you guys think.